Hi folks, back on feeding, and this time the very important 1/32 of an inch. Hi folks, Bob Server from Fusion Firearms again. Today we're going to continue on the feeding issues in a 1911 and some of the items that we see all the time, and how do we address those items. This one I call it, the ever important 32nd of an inch. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Well, and again, this only applies to standard barrels. It really doesn't apply to ramp barrel. So if you have a Para Clark ramp barrel or a Wilson Owen style ramp barrel, this won't really apply. But for all your standard barrels out there, this is pretty much a general rule when you're setting a 1911 up and you want to ensure that you're going to have some pretty decent feeding. And again, that will really be dependent on your ammunition. Okay, this is kind of a overall general rule. You may have to deviate with that depending on your ammo, or if you have some special reloads that you want. Things of that nature, different bullet geometries. There's so much of that out there to try to, tune a pistol without just blowing the throat out to feed everything under the sun is really difficult right now. And some people say, my XYZ Glock does that. Well, yeah, it does. But if you look at the brass, it's all blown out in the bottom. I mean, you can't even reuse the brass because it's blown out so much. And that's how they get it to do that, is because they just set up everything basically for a defensive purpose. When we look at our 1911s, for the most part, we look at recreational and we look at target purposes, which again, you generally look at a minimum of barrel throating. And then if you want to go with other type of hollow points, things of that nature, specific ammos, then we'd end up, changing the barrel throat or extending the ramp a little bit, feed ramp, to compensate or just basically tailor the 1911 around those rounds. And I know that gets kind of specific, but again, that's really for a small group of people who have specific loads for, they're shooting semi-wad cutters for bullseye, they're shooting some specific cast bullet they like or something, or some specific hollow point. Then you throw the barrel to that and you tune the gun to that. But for general purpose, most ball ammo and that for people to target and recreational shooting, this will really work for most people. So again, what is that 1/32? Well, and again, the only way to really show it is with the slide locked up and everything. But for video purposes and that, we're gonna do it in this fashion. Generally, what I'll do is, I'll open the gun and I can actually look down inside the slide. The 32nd of an inch is when you look at the tangent point from the end of the feed ramp on the frame, and then you got the barrel throat here, okay, which is actually if you want to call it the contingent barrel feed ramp going into the throat or into the chamber. You want a gap generally there of approximately 1/32 of an inch, okay, about 30 thousandths. Okay, so here we're going to examine that 32nd of an inch. You'll have the frame feed ramp here that you'll see that I polished. You'll see the barrel throat feed ramp on the barrel, or throating area, I call it the throat. And you'll also see you'll basically have almost negative. You're almost overlapping the feed ramp on the frame, so you're going to have a stub point right in this area. So again, that 32nd of an inch or 30 thousandths is going to be from this tangent point of the center line of the frame, where you come up off the feed ramp, and then the frame feed ramp to the barrel throat. You're going to grind the barrel back, file it back, and then redo this throat area, the barrel throat area, so that you have basically this black area here. You're going to have a 1/32 or approximately 30 thousandths of an inch gap between the feed ramp on the frame and the actual barrel throat right in this area on the center line. That's the center line area. And again, that 1/32 is kind of discretionary, and it's going to be basically, an eyeball type thing. So, and when I have this barrel and this frame, then this is made for examples for you to see what's really going on here. And then we'll go out and cut the barrel back slightly, and I'll show you what I mean by that. All right, so here's an example of one I've cut back. And you'll see where I have this marked up in red, I've cut it back on an angle going down toward the barrel feet here. And I know a lot of people are going to say, okay, Bob, what's the exact angle? Everybody wants like an exact something, dimension. And again, that's again somewhat discretionary. Why? Because again, how do we know when we look at all the different manufacturers out there, any guns that are used, that somebody's been playing with the feed ramp? There's so many variables, again, from where your feed ramp is in the gun, where the, your link pin is in the link pin, the actual slide stop pin is going to go into your frame. There's all these variables, how deep your barrel bed is cut. There's all these different variables that are going to change that angle slightly. Generally, this angle, when I check them, it's generally around 5 to 7 degrees, okay? But again, that's not gospel. You're gonna take this and cut this back, and you'll see how I cut it back. And again, how you're gonna do that? If you have good hand skills, you can use a belt sander. If you have want to take your time a little bit more, you can use a file and just file, flat file. You can use any type of decent flat file, a bastard file, and take it on an angle until you achieve that, and you can just take a little bit off. Take it, put it back in your frame, see how close you're becoming to the 1/32 of an inch. But you will see the tangent point of this angle. Again, the angle is going to start down here at the throat of the barrel, okay? Which you'll notice I have quite a big flat now on the throat of this barrel down here. Because again, I picked this barrel, this frame combination, all this, so it would show you the extremes of what's really going on here, so that you can really get an idea of how to do this. You'll also notice when I cut this angle, you'll see I call this a smiley face. It's actually the throat area of the barrel here, and I usually use that as a guide on both sides as a tangent point to file back. I start there and file down, and usually I don't try to overlap my angle, this tangent point, any further than where that smiley face ends right here, somewhere in that area. And again, that's discretionary. When you look at how a bullet feeds, all your money for feeding a bullet is going to be down in this area here, the feed ramp, or the throat of the barrel, the feed ramp on the frame, all those items. It's not going to have a whole lot to do with what's going on up here, unless you have like burrs in the chamber or something like that. The bullet nose and bullet geometry is going to have all its impact and need working down in this area here. So again, that's just something to think about. And I usually don't like to ruin any of the contact points up here if somebody wants to contact the barrel there. So on the slide. So again, if I look straight across here at that smiley face that I call, where the barrel throat is, that's where I have a tangent point, and then down to the bottom, and that will make up our 1/32 of an inch, 30,000. Okay, now you can see here we have the same feed ramp on the frame. We haven't changed this at all. We have cut back where this red area is on the barrel. We've cut that back on an approximately 5 to 7 degree angle. And now you'll see that from the back of the barrel to the tangent point of the frame feed ramp and the barrel bed right here on the center line of the frame, you'll see we have approximately 1/32 of an inch. And again, that's kind of an eyeball method. You can measure it with a feeler gauge or something of that nature if you wish, but approximately, 25 to 32, 35 thousandths. You're usually in good shape right there. Then the next we'll have to do is go back in here and redo the barrel throat itself, because obviously your bullet nose is not going to feed on hitting this flat right here. Okay, now you can see that our throat is finished. We've conditioned the throat. Now you may have to condition this a few times. Basically, this is part of the tuning your pistol for feeding properly. And you're going to want to reassemble the entire pistol with the slide, of course, all the parts, go out and test fire, and just see how your ammo is feeding. If you're still having some issues, you can look at pushing in slightly this area here, the barrel throat, or put a slight radius. You'll see I put a slight radius on that barrel throat right there, which actually helps with feeding. So you'll see in the video also that we use a series on a Fordham sander or Dremel style tool. We use a series of different sanding drums. Those sanding drums, you'll also notice that I'm right-handed. I'll be holding the tool, the actual Moto tool, Fordham tool, whatever you want to call it, the rotary tool. I'll be holding my right hand and I'll be oscillating the barrel like this with my left hand back and forth to get a nice, consistent, and smooth angle. And you can see if you got good hand skills, it comes out really nice. Now, yes, I know there's fixtures for this when we make our production match barrels and that. Obviously, we're doing them on a CNC and things of that nature. But again, at home, how are you going to do this, and how are you going to fix this at home? How are you going to improve your feeding? And this is the simplest and best way. When you start doing tuning, it's going to be mostly handwork, and you can do a very nice job. And we'll move from different sanding drums down to a felt bob with some polishing compound, and then blend it in from there. But you'll see how we have a nice angle on the feed ramp of the barrel, if you want to call it, and then on the throat of the barrel we have a nice little radius right here. Now again, you want to use your own discretion. You can't push this angle back too far. You'll lose case support, But you got to remember, the web of all the cases, the web of the brass is made to handle, like 20-25% in max of the general PSI for a standard load. So you should not have any bulge cases. You should not have, with standard loads, you should not have any blown cases or anything of that nature. This is pretty much a basic gunsmithing skill that you want to learn on a 1911 or several any others. Is the barrel conditioning is very important. So we also, on our website, we do have the sanding drum kits, which comes with a bunch of the little sanding drums and one of the arbors, so you can actually do this. And we also have the felt bobs and that in stock here for people that we use all the time. Okay, again, here we have our finished barrel throat and feed ramp. So again, we have a polished feed ramp on the frame. The tangent point goes up to the barrel bed. The barrel bed to the bottom of the barrel throat, if you want to call it, is about 1/32 of an inch. And then we have our conditioned barrel throat for proper feeding. And again, this angle, you might want to increase the angle on the barrel throat depending on your bullet geometry a little bit, or add a little bit more radius right here on the barrel throat, right in this area. And again, that will be where you start at the minimum, and then you go out and test fire with your loads, see how everything's feeding, see how you like it. And maybe you don't need any more barrel throating. If you're still having issues, then go ahead and look at maybe adding a little bit more barrel throating. But again, before you start working the barrel throat to any type of excessive means, make sure that your feeding issue isn't from something else. It isn't from the mag. It isn't from your bullet case is hitting the bottom of the ejector, the angles on the back of the barrel, the extractor tension. Again, these will be all things that we'll be getting into as we roll into more of the videos on things that affect your feeding in the 1911. If you got any questions, put them below in the comments or give us a holler.